Meeting to order at 6 o'clock. I thank you all for being here. And would you like to pledge? Yeah. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Breeden.
She's here. I'm sorry.
Mayor Breeden.
Oh, here.
Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Heyman.
Here.
Mr. Maurer.
Here.
5 present. We have a quorum.
Okay, the next item is the pledge. If you please stand and. Okay, sit down, everybody.
Madam Mayor, can I?
We're saying how short this meeting is going to be, and the problem is that I skipped over the approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, can I make a comment before you approve the agenda?
Yeah.
Last Thursday, staff was asked to put an item on the agenda in reference to Downs and Bowman. We were unable to do that. However, I did talk to Mr. Pilchin, and we are going to address that matter during the city manager's comments, so we can staff can get it. We'll present the status of that intersection, and we'll receive direction from council on that matter during that time.
All right. Now approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, now we can go do with the pledge, please.
Please stand again.
Now you can stand again. Thank you.
Face flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Heavenly Father, please be with us tonight as we address several issues of importance for the town, and be with us throughout the rest of this year. And we thank you for all of our many blessings that we've had to date. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Okay, presentations. Who is doing the presentations?
It would be Jed for the first
Jed,
one.
do you want us to join you? Okay.
Mainstay.
Ready? So tonight, this award is a life-saving award for Officer Michael Ogas, who's becoming a mainstay here, so I think we should just have him join us every Wednesday. So on July 17th of this year, officers were dispatched to the North Florence area regarding I guess we could call it a self-inflicted accidental gunshot wound, where a shotgun wound struck the victim's hip area, and upon arrival, Officer Ogas recognized how severe it was and recognized that it struck the subject's femoral artery, and he was unable to apply a tourniquet to that area, so immediately started applying direct pressure to the femoral artery. The subject was already going in and out of consciousness, so not knowing how severe this was, I looked it up. And I couldn't really find a lot on it, so I did one better. I called the doctor. And so I asked the doctor today, I said, hey, how severe is this? And he said, well, considering the heart pumps about 4 to 5 liters of blood per minute, a severed femoral artery, if you're already losing consciousness, you have about 4 to 5 minutes before you could become fatal. It depends on your condition and how much of an athlete you are. So there also reaches a point where there's a point of no return. So if you lose too much blood, it doesn't matter how quickly they get you to the ER or in surgery, that there's that chance where you're not going to come back. So thanks to Officer Ogus's quick thinking, this gentleman's life was saved, and this is his 4th life-saving award, so he's a great asset to this community, so thank you. We'll just fold this in your number 4. You don't need me in this picture, so have that.
Yes, we do, Jay. At the back of your head.
You're doing the front of the flag there. We'll move in closer. Congratulations.
You guys snapped right as Jed turned around.
Can I get all of you guys? Get in closer here.
Scrunch in, please. Did you have a smile? Thank you. Hard?
Did you get to see him get the award? Did you get to see it at all? Can we get a picture with the 3 of you? Okay, thank you. I think it's important that we recognize how much the families give and support our officers. So thank you. Okay. Can we get Jessica or? I guess
She's
you
here.
have.
No, she's right there. She's behind Bard.
Oh, behind Bard. Okay. Could we? Oh, never mind. Okay, thank you. Then we do have one. All right.
Thank you, Jed.
The next item is the slurry program update. Sir?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council.
I don't think that's
Tonight I
on.
wanted to talk to you, and I don't, there it is.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about two particular programs. I thought this might be a minor public works update, as just a slurry. So the fall slurry program started last Tuesday. You all got an email that talked about it. This is them slurring up, John. Oh, I thought that we were going to have the. Anyway, the 2019 fall slurry began on Tuesday, September 24th. They plan to slurry approximately 831,000 square feet, and last spring the crew slurried 671,000. So, 15%, 20% more, and we may be able to get more than that depending upon. We're doing a lot of long straight streets. We're doing Upjohn in California, so. It's possible they might be able to move into other areas as well. Oh, there, it did go the wrong way. Okay, I do apologize for that, but you can see the crew. If you look sideways, you can see the crew slurrying.
It looks like they're riding on the river on a boat.
Yeah. What they're doing with the squeegees is giving it a nice edge between the existing and the new. The gentleman on the back is controlling how much goes down, how much water goes in the mixture, and then the driver's driving. And they have people out there doing traffic control, setting up for the next one. This one, there wasn't too much to set up. There wasn't lots of manholes in the street, that type of thing, or ends that they had to stop at. So it was fairly easy. This is a map showing the yellow is what we did last spring, and the green is what we're doing this fall. And we, like I said, we might get more of it done. It just depends on how our timing goes. It looks like there's less this year, this fall. That's not true. Like I said, the Upjohn and California are both considerably wider. Questions on the slurry?
Last time, a gentleman had a bunch of questions. Did you address those about the Mr. Wagner?
Mr. Wagner.
Yeah, it
Had
was
questions.
Lincoln Street, remember?
The Lincoln, we went out and looked at it. There's no soft spots that we could find other than maybe where some oil had dropped on the road itself. There was some gravel around in places. It's been swept again, but right now, as long as there's cars there's always going to be that little trail around the cars that you see because the broom that we have currently just won't pick that up. We're hoping that the new one that comes in next month, now that it's October, we'll be able to do a better job and we'll be able to get out there sooner and there won't be piles of it sitting around. The crews did leave those piles in the grass and stuff, and I believe they've been cleaned up, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. So the new broom should help significantly.
Should help with that significantly.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Wanted to talk for just a second about the congestion mitigation. The signal synchronization project. One of the things that you may be getting calls on, so I want to explain what's going on so that you have an idea on how to answer them. All right. So we got a congestion mitigation and air quality grant. The only time you get these is to reduce carbon emissions. So by synchronizing the city's signals between College Heights and California, we're doing that by cutting down the amount of stops and the amount of time people had to sit and wait. The reason we stopped at California is the remaining lights belong to Caltrans going north. So this project does so by reducing the number of stops. And I think I said that. So the synchronization allows the mainly north-south traffic priority from 6:30 to 9 and from 4 to 7 each weekday. It's been in place in about 2 weeks on a test basis. A before and after study was conducted. The stops before were 5.4 and after was 5.8 and after was 1.4, a decrease of 4.4 stops or 76%. That means as you're driving from College Heights to the base, at least up to California, you've seriously reduced the amount of times you have to stop for stoplights. It's the time that you're stopped at stoplights and your car is running, which adds to the carbon that you're trying to reduce. So travel time was 386 seconds before and 251 seconds afterwards. Now that's from College Heights, I believe, to California. The speed before was 22.5 miles on average, and after was 33.8, an increase of 11.3% or 50%. So there is a downside to this. I mean, this is, to the engineer in me, sounds wonderful because we've cut down our carbon footprint for all the cars traveling up and down between those time periods. One of the things that is a problem is by giving priority to the north-south traffic, the cross streets and the left turn motions have to wait, and they can wait up to 2 minutes. So we found a few problems when we started our tests originally at the Walmart left turn in the afternoon and at College Heights left turn in the afternoon. And we added more time to the turn signals, and they didn't have to wait quite as long because we were having backups that went all the way from College Heights to Bowman. So we needed to fix that, and we have. So if you hear complaints that, I was sitting at church for 2 minutes and no cars were coming, well, that's because it's set up to prioritize the north-south flow of traffic between those times. And that's what it's doing. Now, we can tweak it if there are problems, but for right now, it seems like it's working well. And
What is the length of the people who are waiting for those left turn lanes?
No more than 2 minutes.
But I mean the length of you said it was up to Bowman, and is it
Oh, no,
still?
those have been reduced. Those were two problems we found originally, and we've fixed those.
Okay.
All right, it doesn't back up more than it really did before.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any questions from the public? Are you coming up, Scott, to ask?
Scott Miller, City of Ridgecrest. If there's a power failure, does that kill the synchronization, or do they stay synced no matter what?
Okay, well, if there's a power failure, it goes to either flashing red, and this may not be quite the question, but let me, it goes to flashing red. When it comes back on, it's back to synchronization.
Okay. And I may have missed this in translation, but what did you say? Where did the lights start? They belong to
Caltrans? They start at Ridgecrest Boulevard and run north.
Ridgecrest Boulevard, north.
Towards the base?
178
Okay. So, but
Chumley Boulevard.
all the lights down China Lake Boulevard have been synchronized? Is that what you said?
No, I said all of the lights that belong to us have been synchronized. That runs from College Heights to California.
When you
Okay.
think of
I'll-
178,
No, ask
that's
the
Caltrans.
question differently, because maybe then, as I must not be understanding the question.
California is the one right in front of City
It
Hall,
is.
right? So everything
North, towards the base from there, is
Belong-
not synchronized.
Ridgecrest Boulevard up to Inyo-Kern is all Caltrans.
interesting. And is there any 178 basically to City Hall is owned by Caltrans? Now, can those lights be synchronized?
That would have to be done by Caltrans.
Did we put a request in to synchronize that with us?
I thought we'd see how this worked first. Make sure that we're happy with this 6 months or a year from now, and then sure.
So yes is the answer. Yes is the answer that we can't. We are able to work with Caltrans, saying, "Hi, we've synchronized our lights, and we'd like you to synchronize yours."
Yes, we can, and this came through a CMAQ grant, like I said, and Caltrans can apply for those as well, or we can apply for them, but we would have to have their permission, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. Richard Wagner, 408 South Lincoln. I didn't realize you were allowing public comment. If we could go back to the slurry slides, the map. First of all, I do appreciate Lauren coming out the very next day, and I spoke with him.
Les
for
and I
about-
were out too at the same
Oh,
time.
were you? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see the rest of you. I saw Lauren, and I talked to him for about 10 minutes. I do appreciate that. I think it was 2 days later, they did church right there. They did a much better job. They're obviously learning and getting the mix much better, and same with Upjohn down by the park. What I have to comment on tonight is the road signs, the conage, the flagmen that aren't properly done. I came home from lunch, took a right on Church to go down my street like I do every day. Had no idea there was construction going on. When I made that right, I saw a line of cones blocking Lincoln, the north side of Lincoln, so I couldn't turn down. And one whole side of the street is blocked. There's a car coming at me head on, no flagman. I had to back out onto Richmond, very unsafe maneuver, and to go all the way around to the north side of Lincoln. And over there by the park right now, you can go by there and see that it's not properly coned off. They have a lane closed. There are no lane closure signs properly set at the 50 yards and the 100 yards like we should. It's immediately right there where the cones are. They have a road construction sign. We should give our drivers some time to make that merge because the lane is closed. We're setting ourselves up, and we have been for years. These have been complaints with road signage with the city and the water district for years. There's going to be an accident. We had one recently with PG&E. Unfortunately for them, they had everything set up properly, and the person that fell in the ditch, unfortunately, doesn't have very good vision. But we're going to have people with good vision injure some of your employees because we're not properly coning things off. When you leave here tonight, if some of you want to drive down Upjohn by the park, it's dark. You won't even see those signs until you're right on them, and you'll have to merge into the next lane. It's not good business. It's not good practice. We need to set up our lane closures properly. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else, sir? Nope. Okay, then thank you for your presentation. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Sir.
I'm Michael Cash, Ridgecrest, 64 years in the valley here, except for 2 combat tours in the Pentagon. I've been flying under the radar lately, and the rumors of my death are a little premature, Stan. But I am back, and I've restarted my efforts to do something that I want to announce tonight. I've been on at China Lake for the 64 years, transferred up here as a Marine Corps brat, and had some great times. In 1957, one of my great times was playing with the B-29 bombers at China Lake. Well, they sit out there at WSL, ready to be blown up and dismantled and so forth and so on. And then my efforts at a place called Davis Airport that probably no one remembers is where I learned to fly, here in Ridgecrest. But I'm happy to tell you that I've been working for several years undercover with Doc, the B-29 bomber that was removed from here that Tony found, and I don't know, over 100 people helped move it out to Inyakern, and eventually from Inyakern it was taken back to Wichita. And just recently they've announced their West Coast tour, and many of us were disappointed that they didn't choose China Lake, Inyakern as one of their stopping points. And because of my relationship has been cordial with B-29 Doc, I was able to last week drive down to Chino, for the air show down there that they gave, and got a chance to meet some of the senior management. And after a very short time, we established a mutual relationship and understanding, and they assured me they couldn't come to Ridgecrest, Inyakern, China Lake, because it just wouldn't fit in, and they didn't have the time or the money. And their motto is honor, education, and connect. And so I shared with them some of our folks and heroes that saved Doc initially, and all the hours that we put in and keeping it from being ground up. And I'm happy to say that with some more discussions, many more discussions, we have formed a team here in Ridgecrest with the airport district, and Steve was with me today in a meeting. I'm happy to say that on Monday, this coming Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Doc will land at the Inyakern Airport for 3 days. And the details, the fine details, will be on Doc's website at b29doc.com. They're going to be posting that late tonight or tomorrow. I do want to thank Dan at Spring Hill and Jim and Karen at Avis for already providing contributions to this. There are really three issues we got to look at as far as is Doc going to make it here. One is making sure that the air crew stays healthy. Number two, that Doc stays healthy. And number three is some donations. So I'm encouraging anyone who would like to provide some donations to us, make that out to Inyakern Airport, and they will provide the check to Doc. But again, Tuesday is going to be the big day. You're going to be able to go out there, take rides, go inside Doc. The crew will be there to help you. And all that information will be on their website. I don't have the really tight details yet because we're formulating this, folks, just minute by minute, hour by hour. This should have not happened. It did. It is happening. And I want to thank Scott out there at the airport and for helping bring this along as well. We're getting tremendous support from the airport district and the board out there. I think Steve was with me today. I don't know how this time thing works, but I think my time's about up.
Stephen Morgan, Vice President, Inyakern Board. Yes, we are in lockstep in getting Doc here. Took a long time, took a lot of conversations from a lot of different folks. Even Les Wood saw them in Miramar, and his picture is on the Doc site. So it will take a lot of coordination, especially if we get a very large turnout with parking out at the airport for Tuesday. So we will be working with some city staff and getting some information from them about how we should work this out. We will be looking for other assistance. Other people have been communicated with. A lot of details tomorrow morning hopefully will be finalized. But the most important thing is we stay positive about this. We got them to come here. We were not scheduled. So we got them to come here. We stay positive. We look at this as a precursor to possible continued visits in the future. Put on a good face. Be positive and help this all out. Now, the B29 site, that is the Friends of Doc, that is where individuals will need to go to sign up to get seats on the aircraft. Okay? So you have to be aware of that. And they are not cheap. However, we have a lot of folks in this town, I think, who would be very, very willing to pay some top dollar to take a ride in a B-29, especially up front in the bomber seat. So all of that information will be getting out to the press, hopefully as soon as tomorrow, as we can just lock it all down. And do you have any questions of us?
What do you need from us other than what you secured from staff, other than donations?
It would be nice, and the staff has been contacted to see if a bus would be available to help us move people out of the airport, but there are problems with that, and I am very aware of that because these buses were purchased with certain types of money. So the staff is going to be talking about that tomorrow. We hope to be able to utilize possibly some of the barricades that the city of Ridgecrest owns so we can maneuver people in the right directions, especially for parking. We are hopefully going to be able to get with the PACT individuals to see if they will assist us with volunteer efforts out, especially on Tuesday, which will be the big day. There's a lot of moving parts that we have not absolutely positively been able to communicate with people yet because literally this happened today, for sure. And the doc website, I waited as long as I could to hopefully see it on the website before I came here. It wasn't on as of the second I drove down here, but it will be. And again, just tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody that you can. Doc's going to be here, especially on Tuesday. I think that's going to be the big day. And we certainly would like to have a lot of people. It's $10 to actually visit Doc up close, and it's $25 a family. So there is a small charge to go with it. We will have a gate where people can get out to the aircraft. All of that helps pay the cost of having the aircraft here, the maintenance of the aircraft, the personnel of the aircraft. You've heard about, we've already gotten major donations for hotel nights and for rental cars. So right now, stand by for tomorrow's phone calls, folks, and we will be getting in touch with you.
I know you would ask some of the elected officials to be there on Monday. You don't need us on Monday now, you need us on Tuesday?
We are still trying to figure out what time Doc is arriving on Monday.
Okay.
That has not been set.
Then we'll wait
The
to hear
answer
from
is
you.
yes for the quote-unquote VIP, but we just don't know a time yet.
Okay.
I'm working with Doc to do a low-level flyover prior to landing at Inyakern. I've already talked to Dave Ostash today to make the schools aware, the children aware, that there might be a B-29 flying low and slow over the city. Go out and take a look at World War II history.
Thank you.
What was that website again one more time?
That is B29doc, D-O-C, .com.
Yeah. I just wanted you to say it one more time because you said it one time really fast so everyone could get it.
Thank you for your efforts. You all have gone above and beyond, so thank you.
It's exciting.
Are we going to have a videographer there? That would be important for getting business for the future and putting it on the website and all that stuff.
Well, and for the museum.
And for the museum, yeah. I know it's one other logistic, but it'd be really cool.
Let anybody you know and everybody you know aware of Doc coming here, videographers, the press, the radio stations. We want to make this a good time together, and we want to honor the community, honor those who've served, honor those who helped save Doc, and to educate our children, and just to connect with each other. It'd be a great time to do that.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. Richard Wagner, 408 Lincoln again. I just want to express my sincere appreciation for your support of the Viewfinders Motorcycle Club. Coming up this weekend, they have their annual event, 2 days of motorcycle racing. It's a great time. I suggest that the community come down, check it out. There is a small fee to get in the gate. They have a motocross track. They have, right there by the start, they have a nice little enduro cross thing going on. A lot of places around the junkyard, Richmond Road, County Line Road, places out there where you can kind of watch from afar. I want to thank Ridgecrest PD for all that they do, all their volunteers, the Kern County Sheriff for coming out volunteering, and just everybody who supports this event. It's a really great time. I'm always excited every year, even though I don't race anymore currently. It's still a fantastic time. I love going out there, seeing my friends, and cheer them on. So please, everybody come out and check it out. It's a good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Kersey, the CPLO at North China Lake. Excuse me, so I can read this. I don't want to get in trouble with my PAO. We just want to advise the community that an explosive operation will be taking place on the North Range aboard North China Lake on Thursday, October 3rd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Base personnel and local residents should expect to hear an explosion and see a smoke plume as a result of the operation. This is standard procedure for this particular operation, but we just wanted to give the community heads up on this one since it's been a while since we've done one.
Could you repeat the times that you expect this for the
tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the heads up. Yeah, no earthquakes. Yeah. Solomon.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Solomon Rajaratnam, 605 Suzanne Street. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm forced to do that. I'm here to address In God We Trust. I hate to bring this up again, but I was at the last City Council, and I want to thank the City Council for voting in favor of placing In God We Trust decals on police cars. The discussion went beyond the decals. It was centered around the existence of God, and though I'm happy the City Council voted in favor of that, but at the same time, I'm disappointed at the 3-2 voting, which I wanted to express here. And because the discussion went beyond the decals and centered around it was focused on anti-God, and also the way it was voted compelled me to come and express my opinion here. There are two issues. Most importantly, in my opinion, this has been existent since 1800, and we had In God We Trust on our currency, and it was declared as national motto. So I didn't see the big deal in extending this to police vehicles. But anyway, I see two phases of this. One is the two words, in God, which people don't like because they think it is Christian-based. But we are not saying which God. To me, it is Jesus Christ. To a Hindu, it might be Lord Krishna. To a Muslim, it is Allah, and so on. But the other aspect is people think that by saying In God We Trust, we are endorsing a Christian aspect here. So what? We accept so many religions and so many cultures. We embrace their culture. Sometimes we embrace their religions. So why not give the benefit of having Christianity aspect for the In God We Trust? I have so many friends, good friends from Hindu, Muslim, and Buddhist community. I'm basically from India, and we have the population of Christians in India is 2% in the second most populous country in the world, and Christians are persecuted in India. When we moved here 23 years ago, we thought we were expecting freedom of religion. No, you can't pray in public schools. You can't talk about God at your workplace. You can't even say Merry Christmas. That's so sad, so sad. I want to say it is the word God that bothers everybody here. We just did the pledge. We say the word God, which is one nation under God. It's similar to what we are saying, in God we trust. So if people don't like to say the word God, probably they'll be choosing not to say that when they say the pledge. Same way, if they don't like in God we trust, they should choose not to use our currency. But do they do that? It's a question of their priorities. I mean, which one they want to do. But anyway, during these days where our police are being attacked, or they were found fault for so many other things, it is more important we need God's protection for our police. When they are on the call of the duty, we never know what is going to happen to them. When they go out, till they return, their safety is not ensured. So it's very important they have the protection of God. So far, during this year, 33 police officers have been killed. So I'm not saying all the police officers are men and women of faith, but I would suggest that they all acknowledge the fact that they are not in control of things happening in this world. So it's all the more important they need protection of God during these times. I sincerely appreciate what our police department does to our community. So going back to the last city council's discussion, it was mentioned that our Congressman Kevin McCarthy, Senator Shannon Grove, Assemblyman Vince Fong, Supervisor Mig Gleason, they all supported this. By supporting this, they are endorsing the fact that our country is based on values, and our country was founded on the values which our forefathers had set for us. So I don't see why we are so we think we are offending people here. No, we are not. We are offending ourselves by doing this thing. So tomorrow, can I continue for 1 or 2 minutes?
Not a couple of minutes, but shortly,
okay.
please.
So, yeah. So somebody comes tomorrow and says, will you take down in God we trust, where we stand. If somebody is going to come tomorrow and say, we want to change in God we trust to in all gods we trust, or in no God we trust, and somebody comes tomorrow and say, you can no longer say, God bless America. So where do we stand on this? But, the God I serve, the God I believe, is bigger than a bumper sticker, but it is a statement I want to support. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Dave Matthews. No, I'm not going to tell you why I wear this thing around my neck, but if you want me to, you give me another 5 minutes, and I'll do it. However, what I was going to talk about tonight was not what I'm going to talk about. Mike Cash and Steve Warren have just made my day. They come up here and tell me that B-29 Doc is going to be here next week. Well, I'm here to tell you and a lot of other people that as far as I know, and I can't prove it exactly, but I had #1 membership to Aviation Museum West. And I am the only person who followed that flatbed all the way over to Arizona just to document what we went through. And I have books of pictures this thick that I would gladly donate to them if I could get a hold of the damn people. And apparently Mike Cash and Steve have done that. And I applaud them very, very greatly. And the only problem is that because there were so many people that put blood, sweat, and tears and many nights into guarding that plane, taking it out, getting it off the base and out to Indian Curtain, that I believe that the B-29 dock, Friends of B-29 dock, owe some of us at least a visit to the Bombay or to the Bombardier's seat or something, because there was a hell of a lot of work went into that effort, and nobody around here is getting any recognition for it. Especially when I look at the price they want for a flight. I'd love to go on a flight for that with that thing, but I can't afford that. I've been retired for 20 plus years, probably 26 now, I guess, I don't know. And my income is very limited, but I think they owe us, some of us at least the acknowledgement that we were here and we helped get it into the air. So I guess, I don't know, do I have time left here, I guess?
2 minutes, sir.
First of all, I wanted to make sure, I just came from my ear, nose, and throat doctor today and had the wax cleaned out of my ear. So I don't think it's my hearing, but is this PA system really up to snuff here tonight?
Yes.
I'm having problems hearing back there. I don't know.
Do you want one of those?
The other thing that I was really going to talk about before this all came up is that I'm wondering what's happening to our Ridgecrest here. The Sears store is closed. I think there was something else that closed. The price of food, groceries are going up. Thanks to the minimum wage, I think we need to get that abolished. In my current condition, I have found that there's some need for help, not just from me, but from other people. And I know there's a lot of people in this town that volunteer to do things and help out. But somehow I have the feeling that the needs are not matching the volunteers. And I would like to find a way for that to get matched up, where the needs, the people that what they actually need can be met by some volunteers and whatnot. So I guess I'll turn the floor over to somebody else for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else? Okay.
Good evening, Council. Mike Neal. Mr. Morgan just informed me that what they're calling a gunner's seat costs $600. So if we can get a bunch of people to pitch in, maybe we can get Dave on the plane next week. Okay? One of the real super miscellaneous thing, this display has not worked right. It's got segments of digits out for a long time, and you get down to the last minute, you don't really know how much time you go. But I hope you guys can give some direction to get that fixed. That'd be real nice. Okay, let's talk about national events, but just real briefly, just as in relation to what happens, things that have happened, and so forth here in the city. As you all know, we're in the big turmoil, got a big battle at the congressional level with the president, and the various factions. It's been going on for way too long. It's going to continue on for way too much longer. It tends to set people off on either side of the question and cause a lot of problems in just overall trust, I think, in the government. We've had a few incidents, I think, that relate to that problem here in Ridgecrest. I'll just briefly mention the casino issue and how that's set one side against the other in this town for way too long, and probably will continue to do so with refusal of the council to put that to any kind of referendum vote. Didn't make very many people very happy. Then, of course, along with that, during the whole process, we had an action that was requested
and consented to, apparently, as I recall, by the council, and that was to basically lobby the Department of Interior and requested that the city manager go and do so. When the decision was made, the direction that I recall was given was that the trip not happen until direction from the council occurred. Well, the city manager went ahead and made the trip anyway, without direction from the council. What those of us watching in the public viewed as direct contradiction to the direction of the council. Then you remember not too long ago the extraordinary defeat of the Parks Tax Initiative by 80% vote, which I never expect to see anything go down or get approved by 80% the rest of my lifetime. I never have before. That was initiated strictly by the city manager with funding that he controlled, and a lot of his time put in lobbying for that around town. But of course, it dragged the whole entire council into that, and I'm sure a lot of you could probably recount stories of flack you got over that. It really wasn't your initiative at all. It was the city manager's initiative. You just got kind of pulled down the drain with it. Then you get to the more personal little incidents. I won't drag this on too much. When a citizen asks a direct question of the city manager and he smirks and then gets his attorney to inform the citizen that I don't have to answer your question, it doesn't engender too much trust on the part of the citizenry and the city manager as far as his attitude about customer service towards the citizens whose taxes pay his salary. And then here we go with the Downs and Bowman stop sign, which I brought up after seeing reports of the 5th reported incident in the newspapers, who saw it newsworthy. Many people have been injured there, and I bring it up and we get told in public that, well, it's not a problem. Direct statement from the city manager, not any worse than any other intersection. Basically told the same thing at the infrastructure committee meeting last week. However, you need to all be aware that this intersection grant request was put into the state under a highway safety improvement program, which says the purpose is to achieve a significant reduction in traffic fatalities and serious injuries on all public roads. And these projects must be identified on the basis of crash experience, potential crash rate, and other data-supported means. Think about that for a minute. I mean, your city manager told the state, we've got a crash and problem here at this intersection. We want $100,000 plus of your money to fix this. He tells the public it's not any worse than any other intersection in town. That doesn't make me really trust a lot about what comes from our city manager when I hear two different stories coming from the same person about the same situation. I think we can do a lot better than that around here, and I think this council can appreciate engendering a lot more trust from the citizens.
Thank you. Okay, are we?
Seeing nobody else, I would like to say one other thing. Even though, Dave Matthews again, even though I wasn't here at the last meeting. Let me ask a question here. I think, is that a rule that one time up or not? I can't hear.
I'm asking our council because I know in the past we've said one time up. Is that a government rule or is that a?
It's not a state law.
Please let him answer.
Nobody else is up here.
It isn't a state law.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Please let him finish, and then we'll tell you. Okay, if you can't hear it.
Well,
can you hear it?
Else that hasn't spoken? All right, come on out.
It's okay, Dave.
We just wanted to let everybody who wanted to speak have that chance before somebody got up in the second time. That's all I was asking, and I wanted to see if it was all right.
He's in a walker.
Okay,
Can we just
fine.
let him
I just had one comment.
It's your discretion, Madam Mayor.
Speak, Dave, please. In the future, though, what we would like is if you want to come up the second time, please make sure everybody who's had the opportunity to speak.
I think that's setting a
does
bad
so.
precedent. I don't mind him going ahead and saying something, but I think it's setting a bad precedent, allow people to come up 2 or 3 times in public comment.
Okay, please speak, Dave.
Thank you. Even though I wasn't here physically at the last meeting, I was watching online. And I found it interesting that neither that meeting nor this meeting had a closed session. Find it interesting because either we've been taken to the cleaners or everybody loves us. And
They all love us, Dave. They love us. That's what it is.
I'm going to have to do the transcript here. I don't know what's wrong here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Marilyn?
Madam Mayor, I think what I'm hearing from you is that was a special exception you made.
Okay.
I would just like to say that the God that I trust in says that we should have some real deference and honor and respect for our elders, and I think that we might want to consider that when it comes to gentlemen like Mr. Matthews. We appreciate his involvement, even under difficult circumstances, with this city, and we can, live by the law and we can die by the law if that's how you want to operate. But a little grace, even in this public setting, would go a long way, in my opinion. The other thing I just wanted to mention real quickly is about visibility. Mr. Wagner, I believe it was talking about the cones and things like that. And I haven't been down in that area, but I know that I have seen that situation happen before. And we also know a young gentleman in town that rides a bicycle that has poor vision, and I don't think he was the one involved in this accident, but I do have quite a feeling along those lines that we really do need to pay close attention to that. And 2 other things. One, I'm just asking, probably if we want people to be able to see and be involved in what's going on in the city, it might be helpful if our slides and our overheads that we look at here are really legible to the public that are even sitting in the room. I appreciate Mr. Lauer's presentation, but when you've got a small dark blue print on a blue background sitting out here, at least for some, it's very difficult. I mean, I had to sit there and really work to follow and trying to listen to the conversation and then trying to read something that's difficult to read. I've had that happen quite a few times, especially during budget hearings and all of that. So maybe we could have a different font color or something bolder, something clearer.
Was it the color or the size, Marilyn?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Especially during budget meetings and things like that. Oh, man, it's just almost impossible to read the things. But tonight, I noticed with that one, it was not easy to read. The other visibility issue that I have is Downs and Bowman. And I'm wondering why. A year ago, probably more, I saw the overgrowth there at that intersection, the huge, I don't know, sage, tumbleweeds, whatever it is, but it just continues to grow up along the fence line there, obstructing visibility. I called a couple of times to the city. They finally got out there and cleaned it up. And now, here we are again, and I apologize, I had some pictures. I've gone out and taken pictures of the intersection, and regardless of stop signs, whatever is happening with all of that, the visibility is a problem, and it continues to be a problem, and
I'd just kind of like to know, is there a problem getting our city crew out there just to clean up some brush and tumbleweed that's obstructing our view?
Was that a statement or a
That
question?
was a
I'm sorry.
question. That was is there a problem? Is it really that hard, or are we limited on funds? What's the problem that we can't maintain the visibility of that intersection? With the brush and the overgrowth.
This is, if I may, Madam Mayor, this is the time for the public to make comments and not question and answer. So you're certainly free to call the office during the day and ask that question.
Okay. Well, I would just say that it seems like to me that intersections particularly should be maintained as far as the visibility, the brush, the whatever it is that's obstructing view at the intersections. That seems to be something that should be a priority in the city.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other public comment? Dave, let me just say this. I was not trying to make you not speak. I wanted to make sure, and I want to say this for the record so everybody understands it. We've always had the rule that no one speaks a second time until everybody has had the opportunity. Marilyn was good enough to defer to you, but nonetheless, I don't want to change the rules just for you, which is one of the things that you obviously were thinking I was doing. So, okay, thank you. Okay, then the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Yep. Council announcements.
Pardon me?
Council announcements.
Boy, I'm having a time tonight. Thank you. Council announcements, please. Mike.
I happen to have one. Up here on the table is some of these flyers. Next week is Rideshare Week, October 7th through the 11th. This is put out to encourage people to, they're actually giving a bicycle away. I'm not sure how you enter that, but you can go to pledge to participate in commutekern.org, find a rideshare partner at commutekern.org, or get more information about commutekern.org. Anyway, they're just encouraging people to rideshare and not pollute as much next week as we normally do. So I would encourage you to come up and get some flyers and maybe commute together. And actually today was Clean Air Day, I believe, and we were supposed to change out our air filters and stuff like that to contribute to Clean Air Day.
Thank you. Scott?
No comments.
Wallace, Lindsay? Okay, just want to remind you there's a number of events going on this weekend all over the community in the next few weeks. There's all sorts of events. Please watch the chamber calendar and all the other calendars around the community, because there's anybody who says I didn't have anything to do isn't living in this community, because there are a ton of things to do. So, okay, the next item now is a consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by city staff and will be approved in one motion if no member of the council or the public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, that item may be removed from the consent calendar and be considered separately with public comment before action is taken. Do any members wish to have the item pulled? I will read them and you please let us know. Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council Successor Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority Housing Authority regular meeting dated September 18, 2019, and resolution of the City Council confirming the continuance of a local emergency. Does any council member wish to have items pulled? Does the public wish to have any items pulled? Okay, motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is a discussion, an action item, a request for authorization to record final track number 6908, Phase 1. Sir.
Madam Mayor, members of council, Bard Lauer, Public Works Director. What we have, the item before you tonight is a request for authorization to record a final track map for 6908 Phase 1. The developer, IAWV Construction, and both David Pearson and Pamela Pearson as co-trustees of the tentative map, 6908 Phase 1, which is located basically between Drummond and Tamaris to the west of Downs. They've submitted the final map. It's in substantial conformance with the approved tentative trap map. The final map has been reviewed by the city engineer and found to be satisfactory, except for a few items that have not been completed that have been bonded for. That bond is approximately $92,000, and that's taken care of. Additionally, the developer entered into an improvement agreement with the city. So staff recommends that the council authorize the recommendation of the final trap map, accept the improvement agreement, and concurrent improvement security. So we're asking you to accept the necessary improvement security, or authorize the city manager to sign the improvement agreement, accept the street improvements and offer of dedication, authorize the city engineer, city clerk, and planning commission secretary to sign the final track map, and direct the county clerk to record the final track map.
City clerk.
Do you have questions?
Just for the record, city clerk. You said county clerk.
Actually, directs the city clerk to record with the county. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item, a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept grant funds from the California State Parks Office of Grants and Local Services. Mr. Patton.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor, City Manager. This is going to be short and sweet. So we're proposing that the grant is coming from the California State Parks Office of Grants and Local Services. The grant is a per capita program, and the minimum funding is $200,000. The way that works is we're guaranteed $200,000 from the grant, and depending on how many cities apply, if there's money left over, we will get more money based on per capita. They don't tell you how much per capita, but that's how it works. The funds available for park rehabilitation, the funds that are available for park rehabilitation, creation, and improvement. So pretty much anything. You can do anything with it. And we have plenty of projects, as we know, from when we were going through the parks assessment that Mr. Neal mentioned earlier, that we have plenty of ways we can spend this money. The funds have to be used in a severely disadvantaged areas. If we use the funds in a severely disadvantaged area, there's no matching funds. You can use it otherwise, but you would have to have a match. And obviously, we have two parks that fall into the category under their guidelines as a severely disadvantaged area, which would be Leroy Jackson Park and Freedom Park. These are some of the staff. We recommend that we use the money in Freedom, Leroy Jackson Park. You have to pick one location. You can't have multiple locations. So if you have projects in several different parks that are disadvantaged, you have to pick one. And the staff is recommending that we focus on Leroy Jackson Park. Some of the projects that we'll be bringing to Quality of Life to discuss how the money will be spent is maybe an additional restroom at the park, LED lighting retrofit, additional soccer field, tennis court rehab, and we have two parking lots in that park that need to be repaved. And the next couple slides are just examples of, the lighting. You can see the lighting that are all the old halogen lighting that is terribly inefficient compared to LED. Just an example of the cracking that's in the parking lot, and you can see the tennis courts, and that's The tennis courts, pretty much every court has issues like you see there. And this is just a couple other pictures of example of building another soccer field or softball fields and the existing football field that we could also possibly build. And, you know, the reason for building another soccer field or football field isn't for more capacity, it's for maintenance reasons. Our fields are used pretty much year-round, and we have pretty much zero opportunity to rest fields, so that's important to consider. Any questions?
So what about, so I'm happy to hear that we're going to finally have a quality of life meeting to discuss this, but I know softball fields have been a real concern and that we can't have tournaments come here because of softball fields, so why wouldn't we want to do that?
We can, but the biggest use we have is soccer/football fields. That's our biggest use.
And then why would we add another restroom at this facility when we have problems with it already with the high schoolers during lunchtime?
That's been a request for, and Mr. Strand can tell you, for a long time for the people that use the softball fields. There's no, in our park, there's no restroom facility on that side of the park. You have to go across the parking lot. I mean, across the fields to the other side to the parking lot.
So, but these are going to be open for discussion still, or have you already selected this all for the grant?
No. The grant process, we have to submit each project, and then they'll fund each project as we go. The intention is to bring it to quality of life, to make these decisions, to present to council, and the council can decide.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go through the whole process, and yes, we finally have something to bring to quality of life that we need to hash out to bring to council.
And so, to be clear on the usage of the grant money, it can be used to repair, fix areas that are in disrepair that we currently have.
Right, rehabilitate, yeah, and repair.
Okay, because in reading some of this, it was a little bit confusing when they were talking about matching funds and for ongoing projects and so. But I just wanted to be clear that we could use it as a means to fix and repair and to bring up to, you know,
absolutely. Yeah. If we'd used it in a park other than the ones identified in the disadvantaged area, we would have to come up with matching funds. And to be honest with you, I can't tell you what those matching funds were because we have two parks that are in the areas that need rehabilitation.
Okay.
So,
and the other thing too, it'd be nice, like when we do the, you know, on the agenda, to have this part that you just presented to us in the packet, so we could have seen where it was going, you know, where the grant money could be used, because that's informative what you just gave. That answered my questions, because just looking at the agenda, I had a whole bunch of questions, but you cleared it up, you know, with this.
Okay.
So, and then in parks, we can go over the area that we want to address it, you know, that need it the most and fix it. And so good.
That's what the
sounds
committee's
pretty
for.
straightforward to me. So
yeah,
good.
It's pretty straightforward.
I wanted to know if there's limits on what can be done in the parks, or do we have to abide by any criteria that they set up? So it's just the $200,000 with no match because it's disadvantaged and we choose the projects.
Correct. We submit the projects and they approve them and fund them.
Okay.
And that'll all happen, and we have to have the approved resolution that we're hopefully going to do tonight to them by the end of the month, which we will. Obviously, we'll send it out tomorrow. And then early next year, they'll start funding the projects.
Okay. Is there any other questions for the council? Questions from the public?
Richard Wagner, 408 Lincoln. How you doing?
Hey.
So I can't tell from the pictures. Does this include the Armstrong Field, the where IWV uses for practice?
Yeah, that's part of Leroy Jackson Park. So it's the entire Leroy Jackson Park that we can use the funds for, and the entire Freedom Park.
Great. I hate to speak for Mr. Matthews, but I think he would greatly appreciate those LED lights.
I think everyone would, actually.
Yeah, you're correct. My the one comment I have is if we do the fields, soccer and all of them, the soccer, softball, or the football practice area, can we contract someone in that understands sod, grass, and everything? Because I know for years we've tried to resod or replant, and our folks don't seem to understand the cycle of grass. Last year we laid a bunch down of manure and seed right in October when it's freezing, and I don't think that's the right time to seed. So it's just a wasted effort and money. So if we could contract someone that understands grass to redo those fields, I'd appreciate that. That's all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Council Mike Neal. From the prior tax effort, I have a pretty detailed list that was presented as far as parks and needs previously to the public. Didn't get your money on that particular one, and I'm glad, because property tax is absolutely the worst of all taxes to try to put on people. As far as this particular expenditure of funds and what we end up getting, whatever that amount is, I would request strongly of the council that every item that's put on the list to be the final, effort to either do something or buy something to add to, say a restroom to Freedom Park, whatever, that be brought before the public, that be scrutinized very closely as to best price for the items, because the list presented to the public in trying to push the parks tax had some extremely overpriced items on there, which of course made the whole total and the apparent need to the public, went from $12 million, and I think after a little while it went up to $16 million. And I had some detailed questions that got answered on some of those items, and basically left my jaw to drop as to, say, what? You really think you need to do all of that just to accomplish a simple purpose? So please, when it comes time, scrutinize these closely, and let's get the best use that we can out of the money. It's simple as that.
Thank you, sir. No other public comment? Any other council comment? Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is brought to us by Councilman Martin. It's a discussion of resolution before the League of California Cities to be voted on at the League's annual conference and provide direction to the city's voting delegate, who is Councilman Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Every year, the League of Cities votes on 1 or 2 items at the end of the conference to bring up. This year, we have 2. One is a resolution of the League calling on the California Public Utilities Commission to amend Rule 20A to add projects in a very high fire hazard severity zone to the list of eligibility criteria and to increase funding allocations for 20A projects. This is brought to us mainly from Rancho Palos Verdes, with the concurrence of 5 other cities of Hidden Hills, La Canada, City of Laguna Beach, Malibu, Moore Park. So these are some pretty higher-end communities. Rancho Palos Verdes is one of the most populated California cities to have 90% more of their residents living in what they call, all of this you have to talk quick because it's CAL FIRE designated very high fire hazard severity zone. Okay, so where brush fires that are determined, they have a fair number of brush fires determined to be caused by electrical utility equipment. As we all know, across the state, that these deadly fires have occurred, such as the one in Paradise and other ones. What happens is this: by excluding this fire safety 20 rule eligibility, this is an issue of burying cable, burying telephone poles. That's, of course, we don't know that till page 3, but the issue is apparently above ground utility poles do cause a little bit higher degree of fire hazard, and so it's of course recommended that these things be buried, and that's a great noble gesture. The problem is that it's, and in this case, it's not just a few high dollar cities. We have more than 25 million acres. A quarter of California wildlands are classified in this category, like 25% of the state's population. So this is what scares me. So whereas it's a good thing to talk about burying all these poles in this massive area of California, the problem is, in my opinion, that the cost on this, like speed trains and other things, can be posted in here at a much lower level, and before long, these numbers are escalated quite dramatically. So the PGE is they took a hit on the Paradise Fire, and there's different discussions on that, and one is that environmentally they wouldn't let them clear the brush and so forth. But the other part of that, and that's your counterpoint, is that we pay a fee for infrastructure and for fires in all of our electric bills. And so that money is supposed to be used to take care of things just like this. In looking at this thing, it says a couple of things that I highlighted here is that, however, in time, where these IOUs such as PG&E are facing bankruptcy as a result of utility-caused wildfires, there's a possibility that the expanding 20A will generate more, and this is what I light up at, as cost to taxpayers. We have a whole group of about 8 or 10 sponsoring cities. Whereas I think many of these things are very noble and they may make sense in a time when you are flush with money. But here's the thing. We're not flush with money. Our little community is doing the best we can with a very small budget. This does not benefit our small desert community. So potentially, as these costs go up for these huge and potentially huge projects, somebody has to end up paying for them, okay? So potentially for us, our costs could go up as ratepayers and the services stay the same. I mean, all of us here, I have a big concern. We have a new lumber tax at Home Depot, which I use quite frequently, and that is kind of like, what? Our gas just jumped dramatically. Now there's 3 or 4 articles in the newspaper about our water rates going up 2 or 3 times. When all of this is said and done, the GSA is in a shortfall. We have to make this up. Electricity is going up and rising. Every month we have a new radical bill from Sacramento on one thing or another. And I don't know, as a general rule, and again, open for discussion and other council, but I think we need to start really looking after Ridgecrest, looking after our budget, looking after saying no to every single tax or increase that we can, especially until California gets its act together and levels off. So I don't know. The second thing, I just loop them together to some degree, is the same sort of thing. The other one is a resolution, so there's a federal and state government to address the devastating impacts. You got to take a breath when you read these things because you can't get through them in one little deal. Impacts of international transboundary pollution flows into the southernmost region of California and the Pacific Ocean. Here's the problem. We got rivers, the Tijuana River in Mexico, coming down into San Diego, and it's bringing with it a lot of different contamination, sewage, trash, and chemicals. Well, we have that problem in many areas all over the United States. But so this is a driven bill by about 5 different divisions in San Diego, Imperial Beach, and several of these others here. Because it's a localized, it's not just localized problem, the idea of trash coming from other rivers, from other countries. It's not just a small thing, and I don't mean to make light of it, but the problem here is this. Yet again, the League is supporting this to restore and ensure proper funding to the U.S.-Mexico border wall infrastructure program, and so forth and so on. But, we already have things in our charter, and we already have laws in place, environmental laws, to protect this. And I don't know, this particular resolution, it doesn't have anything very, very specific. The fiscal impact, where you think it's kind of like the voter guide, where you have pros and you have cons and the public, and you have fiscal impact by the legislative analysts, there's none of that in here. And I brought this up to the Laura and some of the others several times. We have a little paragraph on fiscal impact, but it's very weak and it doesn't cover much. The second thing is that in the League guide, and I'm a member of the League and I support the League and all that, but I also support, if you're going to put something out in a guide, which y'all can get to on the agenda, if you're going to put this in and whatever, you need to have pros and then you have cons. So you look at the 2 main arguments for both, and you look at some kind of a fiscal analysis to make a decision. When you just post all the pros in here, this is all pros, to me, and I tried to look some of these things up to get a little more information, and they're not online. And I was told they'd get back with us. So I don't know. We have yet another environmental action that has to be paid from somebody, and that somebody is usually you, the taxpayer, when it's all done. San Diego has got a problem, in my opinion, on this one thing. It's a problem that they should address with their funding there in their area, because it does not directly apply to Ridgecrest. There's no direct benefit. There's actually no indirect benefit, and it could, in fact, possibly increase our costs. So until California levels out, we stop taxing, we stop coming out with crazy laws every week, I think we need to vote no on many of these things. So I'm suggesting a no vote on these two. But anyway, that's one.
I called Wallace and said earlier, the end of last week, I can understand the reasoning for the first resolution. I definitely have somebody who's much wiser than I explain why we need to fund the second resolution. And I couldn't find anything anywhere, although they're truly wonderful and clearly needed and will benefit the state as a whole. I don't see the direct benefit, as you said, to us. And I know there are times when there may be something that's going to directly benefit us, and we're going to go to the league and say, would you support this because we need it? And they're going to say, well, where were you when we needed you? And I said I would rather just not vote rather than vote yes or no, because there's benefits to them. But it is a choice that we have to make. Is we're going to pay for it anyhow, because if it's approved, it's going to come out of our pocket no matter what, as far as rates and all the other things go. So it seems to me at some point in time we got to say either no or don't vote, or vote yes. I have a hard time voting yes on these. But somebody else?
Sure. I urge to vote no on both of them. I believe the water issue with the state and you got waterways moving into through San Diego and down into the ocean. That's more of a federal issue. I would say. But, I mean, it involves the state, but I think that's where it ought to be handled. Secondly, with the state and the fires, we've got, from what I can gather here, you have pockets of high fire risk areas where people have populated into. I'm not happy with the way the state manages the money, and they want to me, it seems like kind of push it off to utilities. Ultimately, it comes down to the rate payers, and that's us. And so if you have small areas where they're in these high risk areas, when you read the statement here that these other cities have signed on to, this is the part that got my attention. It said, but California's Rural 20A program, which allows local governments to pay for these costly projects with ratepayer funds, does not factor in fire safety for eligibility. So they want ratepayer funds to go in. So we as a community out here in the desert, we don't have a high fire rate where there's not a whole lot to burn out here. Is that going to raise our rates and fees? And we're paying for these other people to live in Rancho Palos Verdes and some of these areas where they've chose to live. I'm not saying hang them out to dry, but the thing is, I don't feel it's fair to everybody paying for these sections of the state. Another problem I have with the state is that when you look at, I had a place up in Wolford Heights, and I had to pay a state-mandated high fire hazard area tax on the property. And so there was a fire hydrant out in front of our place, but yet we still had to pay this high-risk fire region tax. My understanding is that money went into the general fund. Well, look at what the state does with general fund money. High-speed rail, they got billions of dollars that I think are misspent, that I think they probably need to be taking that money, and the state needs to be more involved with this, bringing our power infrastructure back up to a modern level where it should be, and because it is old stuff. But I think the state needs to be spending money in promoting and bringing us back up, not just the ratepayers getting stuck with the bill. So, end of subject, I'd say no.
Everybody else? Anybody?
I'll just say ditto.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should say no. And I think, actually, Wallace, I'd like to encourage you to go to, because I know they have sessions before the last one where they discuss this in committees and stuff, that they take comment. And I would encourage you to go and voice our concerns there, that we don't feel like this should be a cost passed on to the whole state. So that's what.
I concur with that wholeheartedly, because otherwise, when you see all these cities signed on and you feel the warm fuzzy from, well, we're going to do this, and they make it sound good, but it really is kind of railroading us into this.
Right. Well,
this plan. And I don't think it's a good plan for small communities or people that aren't directly involved in it. And if we don't make a little ruckus about it and voice concern, it just keeps going. It gets bigger, it gets worse.
And with all of the major issues in the state right now, like last year, I think we voted on rat poison and food vendors. Yeah. And this year, I mean, the fires were a significant issue, but we have some, like, I think it's nearly 50% of the U.S.'s homeless population is living in California. Like, and that's mostly because of the crazy laws of letting all the criminals out of prison. And we're continuing to pass more of those by shutting down private prisons. And so I think, too, stressing that the league actually, kind of go after more of the hard-hitting things that are affecting the whole state would be better than things that are kind of just for little pocket areas.
Agreed. You have your direction?
Do we need to vote?
No.
No, I think we just
Okay.
unanimous direction to the.
The only thing, Wallace, I would ask is that we understand that the League of Cities has already made this recommendation, asking, and we know that we're going to be outvoted. I mean, there's no question, because people just vote. The league says yes, okay, I'll say yes. But let's understand that we're fighting a losing battle. But at least we'll stand on principle.
Yeah.
So, okay, is there any public comment on this?
Richard Wagner, 408 Lincoln. I totally agree with that statement that we're standing on principle with what's going on in our nation today, where we've got two sides and there's just no crossing those lines. I think it's ridiculous. So I agree. Let's stick to our principle. Let's not just join because we're on the same team, if you will. If we disagree, we disagree, and that should be okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you have our direction. Okay, the next item is committee reports. The Finance Committee. We didn't.
Did not meet.
Infrastructure.
Yes, and we've covered it. We had 4 things on the agenda. Bowman Downs intersection. I think we get a report on that in city managers. Wastewater update. We got an update on how the agreements are coming with the Navy. We got a thorough lesson on lighting and landscaping districts. We're going to be discussing that further at the next meeting to try to stay on top of those to make sure that we keep them cleaned up and everything. And then the last item was synchronization, which Mr. Lauer just gave us a complete thing on there. So that was basically our meeting.
Okay, economic development. You have it, right? Okay. Parks and Rec. Youth advisory.
No.
RACVB.
No.
Other committees, boards, or commissions.
Yes, the Action Committee met, and it was our biannual meeting, and it was a very productive meeting. Thankfully, the school district had a representative there, and we heard from our school resource officers about the problems that we're having in our schools. We're having a lot of issues with vaping and edibles and things of that nature. So the school resource officer had some ideas of some different things she was going to do to help educate the kids on the negative effects of vaping. I heard from Jed just before the meeting. We had applied for a tobacco grant that could possibly help us with funding more school resource officers, because the average is 1 per 1,000 students, and our district has 5,000 students, and we currently have 2. And a lot of times those 2 have to focus just on the high school. And so happily, we were notified that we have been approved to receive the grant. We don't know the details of the amount and everything for sure, but we know that we were approved for something so far. So that'll be great. And our school resource officer, she's excited about looking into the possibility of, because I had mentioned a lot of cities have like Big Brothers or Big Sisters programs or YPALs to kind of help, because a lot of the kids seem to be from not solid families, so they could use good influences in their lives. And so she talked about looking at maybe a Friday Night Live program, or just getting some kind of program here that people could partner up and be matched with these kids and help pour good things into their lives. So it was a great meeting, and so we'll see where we go from there.
Can you tell them a little bit about the cleanup? Cleanup in the community, the community cleanup.
Well, we didn't really talk about that there, but do you want to talk about that?
No, that's okay. We did. We had talked about beginning the community cleanup drive and how we would work with it with a number of people in the city. So,
Yeah.
And Jed is working on that with,
Okay.
with
Well, I know
others
I've
in the
seen
community.
things on Facebook that people wanted to start doing a community cleanup effort, and then some of the churches get together regularly and do it, and so maybe advertising that more.
Well, what we had talked about, the way it was done in the past when the city was truly involved in it, with Ridge Project together, and then having an event that is community-wide, including the schools and the organizations and the churches who want to join, and that's what we were talking about. Okay, maybe it was, I don't know. Okay, sorry. All right, so then any other committees? Okay, Lloyd had asked to speak as the city manager's report. Lloyd had asked to speak also, so.
Thank you,
if
Madam Mayor.
two-
So this is in response to an issue that the city clerk brought up at the end of last meeting. There's some uncertainty about whether the various committees, finance, city org, infrastructure, quality of life, whether they must have regularly scheduled meetings. And then that has an effect on the city clerk, because if the committee decides not to meet, then that would possibly require a cancellation notice be given for that meeting. So with the help of the city clerk, I looked at the resolutions that established those committees. They are standing committees, but the bottom line is there is no requirement that they have regularly scheduled meetings. So they are free to call a meeting whenever necessary, and when there's not a meeting, there's no need to send out a cancellation notice. The confusion was really about whether the term standing committee means that it has a regularly scheduled meeting time, and the answer is no. It just means that it's a set subject matter jurisdiction, and it does not mean that they have to meet at regular times.
Even though we do meet at regular times.
You may meet at
Okay.
regular times,
Okay.
but if there's a decision not to meet, no cancellation is needed.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'll have Public Works Director Bard Lauer come up and discuss the intersection of Downs and Bowman and the status of that.
Madam Mayor, members of council. We opened bids yesterday at 4 o'clock on the combined project of the all-way stop at Downs and the crosswalks for the schools.
Can you get a little closer?
I'm sorry?
Can you get a little closer?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I can try anyway. All right. That's much better. All right. So we had, let me start over again then. We opened bids yesterday at 4 o'clock on the combined project of the Downs-Bowman intersection and the school crosswalks projects. The reason just a quick reminder, the reason we combined the two is because the bids came in. We had one bid that was in line but had several bid deficiencies, and the next two were much higher, and we ended up tossing the bids. This time, now remember, even though the projects are combined in this bid, they're separate HSIP projects, so all the paperwork is different and everything. So the bids came in on the Bowman intersection. The bid was $75,000. The engineer's estimate was $118,000, but we had to have construction engineering as well as I'm just trying to make sure I get it all right. Construction management and testing, and then a contingency, which brings us up to about $99,000. But again, there's $118,000 available, so this one fits within the budget. Not a problem. Now, I'm going to finish this, and then I'll give you the cautions. The crosswalk bid came in at $177,000. The engineer's estimate was $170,000. There's $25,000 in construction management. And if we pare the contingency down to 5%, that comes in about another $9,000, which gets us up to $211,000. That's going to mean that without the additive bid, it's about $15,000 that we need to fund this project. The additive bid adds the rapid flashing beacons at the crosswalks, which is always a good idea. That's another $7,000, not a lot of money. So it'll be about $22,600. Now, again, I'm not asking you for the money today. I'm giving you an appraisal of what's going on, just so that, because council asked for this, so I'm making sure you understand. Now, the things to remember is we have passed this on to our consultant. They are evaluating the bid to make sure that there's no problems with the bid. The company has 4 days to get their DBE in. That can always be a problem. So we don't know. We won't know until next week sometime, the end of next week, early the week after, whether or not we have a viable bid or not. So what I'm suggesting is that we wait to see if we have a viable bid. If we do not, we go out and put the stop signs in immediately. And if we do, and we check into the timing proposed by the contractor and then make the decision at that point.
So it will be like another week for us to know if the bid is viable? Or?
I said a week to 10 days only because we won't even know about the DBE coming in until the first of next week.
So will we be able to make a decision at the next council meeting?
Oh, absolutely. Now, the only problem, I'm sorry, we could be given direction at the next meeting, but I can't promise that I could have a full-blown item in with the staff report and stuff before I know the answer for sure.
So this morning at the staff meeting, Bard wasn't present, Lauren was, we discussed it. And Lauren is going to provide me with a staff report and resolution and everything in advance.
Okay.
And what we potentially might have to do is pull it at the meeting because it won't be ready because the DBE won't be in or whatever. And then we'll have to make a decision to go a different direction. But we want to put it on the agenda so that if it is ready, you guys can go forward on it.
Can we list an alternative on there?
That's up to him. I don't know what they're going to give me, but
you know what I'm saying. So we list two alternatives on there. Like we either approve that bid, or if we find it doesn't meet the requirements, we go ahead and have the language ready to move forward with us installing the stop signs.
You know, this has puzzled me just a little bit, okay? And maybe it's just, I'm not sure I understand, but if council told the city manager that I want you to go out and do it today, he would tell me that, I don't know that it's a voting thing. Am I wrong? I mean,
If the majority of council gave us direction to bypass the grant and install it, we would install it.
So we still have to come up with additional funds anyways.
only if we accept the project. If we don't accept, I mean, if we decide there's a bid irregularity and we only had one bidder, if there's a bid irregularity and we have to, and we can't accept the bid, then
I would say
we just need to move ahead.
Let's just go ahead and go install the stop signs is what I would like to suggest.
There is a cost to that out of the general fund if we do.
Right. But there was going to be a cost anyways with this bid.
Well, no, if we decide to move, let me explain a little differently then. If we decide to move forward with this, there's a cost of about $22,000 to make both projects move ahead. Now, I realize that I said we had a savings on the other one of approximately $18,000, but I can't take the money from the Downs project and use it on the Crosswalk project. They're two separate HSIP grants. I cannot say, hey, I got a little extra here, I'm going to use it here. I can't do that. So, but the project is bid as a whole, so I have to award as a whole or not award as a whole. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So the cost extra only moves forward if we move forward, all right? What the city manager was stating is that if we go out and do this work, we don't get reimbursed. I'm not saying it's tons of money. I'm just saying we don't get reimbursed where we would have get reimbursed if we have the contractor put it in. It's 100%. There is no city match for these. So, again, whatever council tells us to do, we will do.
Something else to keep in mind is we've already spent quite a bit of money also on advertising and going through the bid process. It's only 2 more weeks.
Right, but we're still going to, there's more to the project than just adding the stop signs. So that part would still be done. But it's just the stop signs. And we voted on this
a year plus ago, for sure.
Yeah, a year and a half ago. It just seems like we continually just, we were waiting for the last bid and then it wasn't right. And so.
But we're right there. It's 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I will say.
My opinion is, I think we should just go ahead and do it because it seems like every time it just gets kicked further down the road. And then we're like, well, it's only this much longer. Well, it's only this much longer. And it's a small cost to save maybe some accidents from happening.
The only thing I might suggest, okay?
Okay, I don't want to argue.
No, I'm not
just
arguing.
sharing my opinion.
Yes.
So if anybody else wants to give their opinion.
But we're not voting on this tonight.
But we can give direction. So my direction would be to install it. So we're basically going to have to vote because I'm saying my direction would be to do it. So then we're going to have to see if 3 of us want to do it, then we would say do it.
Okay, so I have a question. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Question.
Go ahead.
So we have 2 weeks left on the open bid process?
No, the bids came in yesterday.
The bids came in yesterday.
But we're
so there's no more-
evaluating to make sure it's a viable bid.
Okay, so there is no more time.
For more bidders to come in.
In 2 weeks, we could vote on either awarding the bid or not awarding the bid.
Okay, so that part is a done deal.
Okay. Say again, I'm sorry.
So that part of it, as far as the bidding process is done.
It was closed
So
yesterday.
Okay.
Well, trying to reach a little compromise, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Stevens, because I had said this before too, and it's whatever, but I get it. We're right here. I think, can we agree that in 2 weeks, I mean, we're going to decide one way or the other. If this is going to be extended on, put the stop signs in. We will make a motion and vote to put the stop signs in.
That was actually going to.
Because if we do it now, if we direct them tonight to do it now, the funds will not be covered.
Right.
It has to
I
come.
got it,
We
but-
have to pay it out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then if we award the bid,
Right.
then
So
we're tough luck.
let's just.
So I recommend we wait the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
See the bid.
I agree. I
And
think
then make
we
a
need-
decision that night. That's only in 2 weeks we make a decision.
It's in the
one way or the other.
process.
Yeah.
It's in the process. It's getting handled. We don't have a budget that we can just throw away money. So I think it's a wise decision to follow through with it, give it the 2 weeks, and then let's get it done.
So can I make a suggestion that I was just going to make? Why don't you just give us direction that if at any moment that we decide this is a non-responsive bid, go put the stop signs up?
Yeah, you've got, yes.
That's what I think.
Who was the bidder?
That's what
I think that's a better solution.
Okay,
Who
yeah.
was the bidder?
S&H Civil Works. They've not worked in Ridgecrest before that I know of.
Never heard of them. Okay.
Because there's already going to be 2 people gone. If a third person had something come up, we wouldn't potentially have a meeting next meeting.
Yeah, you're right.
And so I think it's better to say, if at any point you figure out that this isn't going to proceed, go put the stop signs in.
I don't have a problem if we're going to reject the bids. If the recommendation from staff is reject the bids, then I don't have a problem with that.
I would also, we could add a caveat to this, if it's going to, because obviously the contractor has to deploy, they have to come. So there's going to be a schedule in which they will be, if it's longer than a certain period of time, if we believe it's going to be an extended period of time, we'll just put the stop signs in.
Right, because there
If
was
it's more than
talk-
a couple months, then
There
we'll
was
just put them
talk
in.
at the infrastructure meeting that school couldn't be in session when they do the crosswalks. So if they have to wait for school to be out of session and they only want to deploy once, then they wouldn't be putting the stop signs in until.
No, school, they couldn't work on the crosswalks at the beginning of school or end of school. They could work on it during the day,
Right.
but not, so.
But if
don't
they
have-
want to
They don't have to
avoid-
wait until Christmas vacation to do it.
But if they wanted to avoid having to be that narrow hours of operation, they might choose to do it when school's in break, but.
That's what we did. But that's a separate project. That would not hold up the stop sign.
Well, but he's thinking that they're only going to want to come to town once.
We're going to do
I
everything we
understand
can to get the stop signs installed as soon as possible. And if it appears it's going to be delayed, we'll just order them to be placed in.
All right, can we add a general cleanup in with these signs when they go in, regardless of anything or anything? You know, Marilyn's brought it up, and I've noticed it too, as far as the shrubbery and visibility. I'm not talking about major landscaping board. I'm talking about so we can see around the corner. Can we clean that up when we put the stop signs in?
Well, actually, one of the things I was going to mention is that we hired 2 temps that started earlier this week to clean up the tumbleweeds and stuff on the sidewalks and stuff. And we certainly could have them.
Okay.
I mean,
That would
go
be
out and
great.
take a look.
So, I mean,
There's no point-
I'd
there's
like
no
to
point
make that
waiting.
part of the directions for these signs right away. That would help the situation.
So, that's in regards to the visibility at that
Yeah, yes,
intersection.
just
So not just
visibility.
the cleanup. The cleanup is the small stuff, but
Yeah.
I think the obstruction of view from
Obstruction of
existing
view,
plant
cut some of
life
that stuff down.
is what he's, not just the cleanup, but that would be an actual reassessment of the landscape and cutting back the plantings to clear up the obstructed view.
Yeah,
So-
generally, Park and Recs I know this is not, I just want to let you know, Park and Rec normally takes care of the medians and that type of thing. So, but we'll have the temps take care of this one in particular.
And so my final question is, what's your opinion or direction on the waiting the 2-week period or going with?
Well, I think it was my suggestion, so I think it's not a bad. If I'm understanding you, you're saying if any time in the next 10 days to 2 weeks we find that the bid is not viable, we're going to go put the stop signs in. Now, please remember that I have to put out the message boards at least 2 weeks in advance to say, hey, we're putting in new signs. Okay, so it's going to be 2 weeks beyond that. All right, but I think that works just fine.
Okay. I agree.
Okay.
Do you feel you have direction then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just want to be clear.
I just have 2 other items. We are still moving forward on the HVAC project. We did get a bid in today that was a piggyback on another awarded bid through the GSA process. I do believe we're waiting on one more bid process, one more vendor to put a bid in under the same procedure. When we get both of them in, we'll assess it, and as promised, we'll bring it back to the Quality of Life Committee for review prior to award of the contract. We also, in regards to the bathroom project at Freedom Park, we are progressing on that. We have hired an architect to do the plans for the installation of the building that we plan on purchasing. So that's in the works and moving along. So that is my report for this evening.
Okay, the next items, future agenda items. Does anybody have any?
I would like to, I don't have an exact date, but very soon we'd like to have the little, where we put the decals on the place and we have the public maybe invited. We'll just do a very brief thing, but that'll be happening in the next probably 2 weeks. So I don't have a date exactly yet.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Mayor and City Council comments. Let's start down here. I wanted to share with you, I've had some discussions with some leaders in Bakersfield about the homeless situation over there, and they were asking us if we had a homeless issue here. And I said, there are some. We are not anywhere near in the same capacity as you all are. And even though some are homeless by choice, some are homeless by necessity, some whatever, we weren't trying to decide. And I said, but what is it you're looking to change? Leadership to get it done? Change laws to get it done? What is it you're looking at? And so I would like us to, at some point in time, figure out whether we are going to work to be an advocate of getting rid of the propositions that release early from jail, release early, because we have 300 beds at the Lerdo facility that, because of legislation that made the county release people, and they're not even there now, services to take care of them. I think some of that can be addressed on our level too. Not clearly, the impact is not the same as it is in Bakersfield, but I'd like us to be able to at least participate minimally with them, give our input and see what, but I want to see first where they're going to go and how we can participate. And I'd like to ask Jed and our staff to work with that if we can and
Sure.
if there's a need.
I mean, I think that the sheriff and the DA just announced that they are going to start using the jail facility because that is where they have the facilities and the programs to help these folks. And I think that they took a little criticism for that stance. I know that Chief McLaughlin's is part of the Kern Chiefs Association, right, and they discuss these issues all the time. You know, we do not have a significant homeless issue. We do have homeless folks that do come in from time to time. We do have a few that wander town with the appearance that they're homeless, and we try to get those folks help when we can. We have reached out to families and tried getting them sheltering in Bakersfield and stuff. So we do address that all the time. And I think the larger crime issue, I know that there is an initiative that's on the ballot for November of 20 that was supposed to be on the last election but was taken off. And that initiative will be up for the voters to decide to roll back some of the Prop 47, Prop 57 effects. And so that's a ballot issue that will be up for the public to decide.
And that's when they're going to be an advocate, some of these.
And we're limited on how much we can advocate while.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I have nothing else. Does anybody have anything? Okay, then we will adjourn. Thank you all for coming.